Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Friday, and all of our guests today, including John Shannon, standing by, brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Playoffs a day away. NHL playoffs a day away. Game 1, Predators and Canucks on Sunday. Joined now by John Shannon, NHL analyst, co-host of the Bob McCown podcast. John, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Good for a Friday. This is kind of like Christmas Eve for me. I mean, playoffs are a special time for the next couple of months. You get tired by the end, but I'll tell you what, this first round is so electric. It's spectacular, including the Canucks and Predators in the Stanley Cup playoffs starting Sunday.
It is like Christmas Eve, except for this, John. So many Canadians, despite our reputation around the world, associate the Stanley Cup playoffs with really good weather. It's nice today in Vancouver.
Well, that makes up for what's going on here.
Really? What do you have in Toronto?
It's plus 10 and overcast and a little. It's a Vancouver day here today. It's just a little mist. There's a little mist. So, by the time the Maple Leafs return from Boston, I'm sure it'll be fine.
I can't put into words how sorry the people out here feel for the people of Toronto. Hey, John, Game 1, Predators, Canucks, first time in a while for the Canucks in the playoffs, first home playoff game since 2015 for the Canucks. What can you tell us? The towels are going to be flying. What can you tell us about the connection between John Shannon and towel power back in 1982?
Well, I tell you what, I was a kid producer at Hockey Night in Canada, Donnie, and it was and I got the Western swing because nobody else wanted to work in the West. I was the one who put my hand up and said, I'll do Winnipeg, I'll do Calgary, I'll do Edmonton, I'll do Vancouver. And all it did for the decade of the 80s was put me in the Stanley Cup final every year. So in 82, after Roger lifted the towel in Chicago, when we came back, I went down to Gastown to Butch Giroux's T-shirt shop. You remember Butch?
Dog's Ear.
And I bought 500 white towels with a really nice. I'll try to find one. I know I have one here. I'll put it on social media. A beautiful Hockey Night in Canada towel for the Stanley Cup playoffs in 1982, and we gave them away for 500 people outside the Coliseum. Remember, Steve Armitage was our host. Steve was out there doing the live stand-up out on the, that little mall out in front of the glass doors of the Coliseum. Oh, yeah. Steve was out there, and we were giving towels away. And I know that there were other people that were jumping on the bandwagon, but I feel a little responsible for what went on with the towel waving at the Coliseum for all those games. Again, in the Chicago series and obviously into the Stanley Cup final against the Islanders.
Yep, 82, towel power, very special. It was a great time, John. Okay, so here we are now, the Canucks and the Predators. A lot of people are picking Vancouver, but are also cautioning, don't think it's going to be easy with Nashville.
Isn't that the same story in every series in the West?
Yeah.
I mean, you could have picked anyone that the Canucks would have played, and you'd have the same sentence. Yeah, but they can turn it on. They can be really good. Every team, 1-8 in the West is just, it's crazy. I mean, I honestly believe that every one of the 8 teams in the West, if they got to the Stanley Cup final, lots of people wouldn't be surprised. Every one of these teams, and maybe LA is a little different because of their goaltending scenario, but everybody else could go on a tear for 5 or 6 weeks and represent the West. Now, Nashville is one of the best stories in the game, and the matchups are fascinating. I think goaltending's equal. I think defense is equal. To me, where the difference is and the pressure goes is on Elias Pettersson and Elias Lindholm. Those are the 2 key guys for the Canucks. Because let's face it, I do think, and you guys are closer to it than I am, that if you look at 2 players that have not played to the level of expectation the last 5 or 6 weeks, it's Pettersson and Lindholm. And if they do play to expectation, then the Canucks win going away.
Okay, now 4 Canadian teams are in it. I'm really having a tough time with the Leafs and Bruins picking a winner there. But the other one is the Jets and the Avalanche. For the Jets to get home ice, credit to them. But that's going to be a whale of a series too.
Yeah, but and I think both the Boston-Toronto series and the Colorado-Winnipeg series come down to goaltending. Mm-hmm. And you tell me who's the better goaltender in the Winnipeg series, Rick?
Well, Hellebuck.
Okay. You tell me who's got better goaltending in the Boston-Toronto series.
The Bruins. The Bruins didn't announce their starting goaltender. They got their guy, but they wouldn't announce it this morning. It's the Bruins.
It doesn't matter who they play. They're both better than either Wall or Samsonov.
Yep.
So, and this is a goaltenders tournament. That's what it is. It's a goaltenders tournament, and so I think that puts the balance of justice in favor of Winnipeg and in favor of the Bruins.
Talking with John Shannon. John, we argue about this. We argue about a lot of things in the studio.
Not you guys.
Well, this is one of the things. You should have been here about an hour ago. But, John, we argue about a lot of things. One of the things is the current NHL playoff format. Do you think it's created rivalries like it was supposed to?
The Stanley Cup playoffs, I think, in so many ways, rely on those rivalries. I think that the rivalries exist. It's funny, on our show today, we had a big discussion about rivalries in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And there aren't any anymore in the NBA. There aren't any rivalries. It's all mano a mano, star versus star.
Yeah.
Where the NHL has, I think, an advantage is that we still feel that there are rivalries because of the regionalization of the game. I can tell you right now, the people in Vegas and Dallas are still ticked off at each other from last year's playoff series. Edmonton and Los Angeles, this is the 3rd year in a row. I think that that's a strength of the rivalries of those two teams. It will be vicious in that series. Islanders, Carolina, no. But we're building a rivalry in Florida with the Lightning and the Panthers now. I think that'll be electric. And obviously, we've already talked about Toronto, Boston, which, the Bruins are the Maple Leafs' Achilles heel. But it will be crazy. I guarantee you it will be crazy. I think the regional level of rivalries in the NHL is as close to perfect as it ever has been. And that's a good thing. Now, some people may not like it, Donnie. Yeah. Some people may think that we need to broaden the base. There's a lot of people within the walls of NHL teams, though, that are saying we want more regionalization. We want to play our local teams better. Would it be better if the Oilers and the Canucks played 6 games a year? You and I remember when they played 8.
Yeah.
And would it be better that they played 6 rather than 4? There's an argument to be said for that.
Okay, you mentioned covering all those games back in the 80s, playoff games in the West. This is a little off the beaten path here, John, but for older people like you and I, Rick and Ryan are still young. But the best part for me of Kucherov and McDavid getting to 100 assists, only the 4th and 5th players ever to do so, is the fact that it reminded everybody that Wayne Gretzky did it 11 times, John.
Amazing.
You were at a lot of those games.
Amazing. And I will say, and I'm a little embarrassed to say it, there was a time in those 11 that we took Wayne for granted.
Yeah.
Because it just happened all the time. And, if the Oilers were up 6-1 in the 3rd period, you weren't marveling at the great play. It actually got to be boring at times. They were so good. They really were. The other one that's lost in all of this, Donnie, and maybe again it's my age, but the first player in the history of the game to get 100 assists wasn't even a forward.
Yeah, Bobby Orr.
And to me, you're right. Wayne doing it 11 times is amazing, but the fact that it was a defenseman in a time where the game of hockey was a lot more vicious, a lot less complex. That Orr was able to put 100 assists on the board was truly amazing.
2010 playoffs, before we let you go, 2010 playoffs, Rogers Arena, Canucks Kings. I'm in the crowd. I'm not in the press box. Pay for tickets. Guy in front of me is waving a towel around. He's had a few. Whips me in the eye with his towel. Yeah. I'm blaming you for that. Now that I know you were behind Towel Power in Vancouver, just so you know, you owe me one.
It's all based on our pal Roger.
Yes.
It's all based on Roger and Stan Smeal and Colin Campbell and Jimmy Neal and all those guys in Chicago. Because you know as well as I do. You know as well as I do. And this is where generations have forgotten. There was nobody that thought more about the game of hockey and a way psychologically, strategically to change the game than Roger Neilson.
Hear, hear. If you don't believe us, take a look at the statue outside Rogers Arena. Thanks for this, John.
Canucks in 6. You never asked.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah. Oh, is that what you're saying? Canucks in 6?
Canucks in 6. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Then we'll go here. Cup winner. Go.
Oh, no, I'm not doing that one.
Okay.
It's too early. Listen,
too hard.
I'm looking for Edmonton, Vancouver in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be something?
Mm-hmm.
And Dallas and Winnipeg in the second round. Wouldn't that be something?
Go grab a towel and wave it. Thanks, John.
I'm gonna go find that towel and I'll put it up there, and then Ryan can put it on the website or whatever you have.
Sounds awesome, John. Appreciate it.
Cheers, boys. Happy playoffs. Stanley Cup playoffs, Donnie.
Yep.
Not NHL playoffs.
Yep.
Stanley Cup playoffs.
Christmas Eve. Thanks, John.